The hour is 7 p.m. Having arrived, I'll call to order this regular meeting of Keene City Council. This meeting is being broadcast live on the City of Keene's YouTube channel. This video is also streamed on the city's website and is posted to the website by the next business day, barring any technical difficulties. If you'd like to receive an electronic City Council packet to reference while viewing future broadcasts, please contact the City Clerk's office during regular business hours or go to the city's website and subscribe to the city meetings email list. The agenda is also accessible from any mobile device. I'd ask that the clerk please call the roll.
Brian J. Lake.
Here.
Michael J. Remy. Gladys Johnson.
Here.
Michael Giacomo.
Here.
Randy L. Filio.
Here.
Robert C. Williams.
Here.
Philip M. Jones.
Here.
Andrew M. Madison.
Here.
Chrissy Roberts.
Here.
Raleigh C. Omerod.
Here.
Bettina A. Chadbourne.
Here.
Catherine I. Workman.
Here.
Mitchell H. Greenwald.
Here.
Kate M. Bosley.
Here.
Thomas F. Powers.
Here.
All right, thank you. So Councilor Ormerod is participating remotely, and if you could just state your name and your reason for participating remotely, and if anyone else is in the room with you, please, Councilor Ormerod.
Thank you, Mayor Hansel. Councilor Raleigh Ormerod, participating remotely for medical reasons. And I have Evelyn Ormerod, Graham Ormerod, and Dana Ormerod here in this large room with me.
All right, thank you very much, Councilor. Councilor Filio, would you please lead us in the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United
United States of America,
and to the republic
republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, and justice for all.
Okay. So a couple of announcements. Councilor Greenwald's birthday was yesterday. Happy birthday, Councilor. The Keene Veterans Council is extending its annual welcome to participate in the Memorial Day ceremony and parade on Monday the 30th. The parade starts at 10 a.m. and will form on Gilboa Ave and proceed up to the Veterans Monument at the Parks and Recreation Center. That's all we got. All right. I've got a proclamation too. Is Andy here? Okay. If our Parks and Recreation Director can join me up here. Nice to see you. So proclamation, whereas May 21st, 2022 is the 12th National Kids to Parks Day, organized and launched by the National Park Trust. And whereas Kids to Parks Day empowers kids to encourages families to get outdoors, visit local parks, public lands, and waters. And whereas we should encourage children to lead more active lifestyles to combat the issues of childhood obesity and obesity-related health problems like diabetes, asthma, and high blood pressure. And whereas Kids to Parks Day is open to all children and adults across the country to encourage large and diverse groups of participants. And whereas Kids to Parks Day will broaden children's appreciation for nature and the outdoors. Now therefore I, George S. Hansel, Mayor of the City of Keene, do hereby proclaim Saturday, May 21st, 2022 as National Kids to Parks Day in Keene, New Hampshire, and urge all citizens to take time and get children out into their parks. In witness whereof, I hereunder set my hand in the official seal of the City of Keene this 19th day of May, 2022.
Thank you, Mayor.
You're going to have to speak into this.
Thank you. So on this Saturday from 12 to 2 at Robin Hood Park, our recreation manager has put together quite a bit of activities for kids and families. Games to Go will be there with a lot of yard games. Kona Ice will be there. We'll have a new introduction to the park, a little new amenity that our park staff has built, and I think the kids will go gaga over it. I won't say what it is. It's a little bit of a surprise, but I probably just ruined it if people know if I know what I'm talking about. So, but it will be a lot of fun. And there'll be prizes and different things for the kids to do. And we encourage everybody, if they can't make this particular activity, go explore Ashwillet River Park or some of the trails around Goose Pond. Keene, we're very fortunate to have as many parks as we do and many trails. So go out and explore and enjoy Saturday as Parks to Kids Day.
Great. Thanks, Andy.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Okay. So with that, I would look for. There we go. With that, I would accept a motion on the minutes from Councilor Powers, a second by Councilor Bosley, please.
Thank you, Your Honor. I move to accept the minutes from the May 5th, 2022 regular meeting as printed.
Second.
We have a motion from Councilor Powers, seconded by Councilor Bosley. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Counselor Reed.
Yes.
Counselor Johnson.
Yes.
Counselor Giacomo.
Yes.
Counselor Filio.
Yes.
Counselor Williams.
Yes.
Counselor Jones.
Yes.
Counselor Madison.
Yes.
Counselor Roberts.
Yes.
Counselor Ormerod.
Yes.
Counselor Chadbourne.
Yes.
Counselor Workman.
Yes.
Counselor Greenwald.
Yes.
Counselor Bosley.
Yes.
And Counselor Powers.
Yes.
And it's unanimous. They are adopted. So at this time, we're going to move to a presentation by Liberty Utilities. I'd invite Neil Proudman, president of Liberty New Hampshire, and Huck Montgomery, and the Liberty team to get comfortable.
So Huck doesn't have a speaking part tonight. So,
Okay.
so good evening, everyone. I am my name is Neil Proudman. I'm the president of Liberty New Hampshire. Tonight, we'd like to talk to you about two things. The first one is I've been in the gas industry for 43 years. I started when I was 16, and I've never been in a position where we've lost an entire system. That was until October of last year. We went through a rigorous incident analysis, and we're here to share with you the results of that and the root cause. And then secondly, what we'd like to do is to introduce you to a little project that we've kicked off, which we think will complement the city's Green Keene strategy going forward. Before I start, I'd just like to make some quick introductions. To my right here is Rich McDonald. He is the Vice President of Gas Operations here at Liberty New Hampshire.
Good evening, everybody.
On the end there, you may already recognize Steve Rokes, who is our local manager, works just down the road at the plant. Next to him is Bob Mastoni, who is our Director of Gas Operations based in Manchester. Next to him is Bill Clark. Bill Clark is our Senior Director of Business Development, and he's going to talk about the little opportunity that we'd like to introduce to you. Next to him is Morgan McGregor, who is a project manager within the same group. Just to let you know, Morgan came all the way from New Brunswick in Canada. And if you're wondering why we've got somebody here all the way from New Brunswick in Canada, she's here because she's brilliant at what she does. And she's bringing that talent here to Keene, New Hampshire. And then finally, Huck Montgomery, who is our Director of Government Affairs. So with that, I'm going to hand over to Rich McDonald.
Okay, well, thank you, Neil. And thank you all for allowing us to take the time to talk to you about, the incident that occurred on October 21st, the loss of supply. So on Wednesday, October 20th, there was a failure on the propane air system at the Keene plant, which caused a loss of pressure in the gas distribution system throughout the city. That affected 1,137 of our customers on that distribution system. And as Neil said, first time that we've ever seen, or had to deal with a total loss of the entire system. So prior to the outage, we talk a little bit about why it occurred. There were Liberty personnel that were performing some work on a electrical control panel in the plant as part of some planned upgrades within that plant. And the remote terminal unit, known as an RTU, is what failed in that cabinet as a result of some of the work that was being performed in that cabinet. It was later determined that metal debris from the shavings, they were drilling a hole in the cabinet to install a conduit to facilitate wiring for the upgrades for that, plant operation and control. Some of the metal shavings hit a circuit board or dropped on a circuit board on the RTU, and it caused that RTU to shut down and thus shut down the systems of the plant, and the plant stopped producing propane air mix, that we service the customers in Keene for. So, number of causal factors there, aside from that, that exasperated the failure of the plant. But once the plant was down and we had to shut the system off, we have very elaborate and exercised emergency response plans. We refer to it as our incident command structure to deal with, events of this nature. And we immediately implemented that. Neil and I were fast on our way from Londonderry at 10 a.m. in the morning to get out here to the city of Keene to help begin with the restoration activities. So, as part of the restoration, we partner in a mutual aid organization through the Northeast Gas Association. And we also, in an event such as this, we work hand in hand with the first responders of your community, the police and the fire department. And they were just absolutely, wonderful to work with. We were all focused on restoring the gas system just as soon as we could. So, just a few facts, 1,137 customers. As a result of the outage, no one was hurt. There were no injuries, no fatalities. But when you looked at the restoration, there were 35 New Hampshire Liberty employees involved, 5 Liberty employees from Massachusetts, 25 from National Grid, and 9 Unitil. Those employees or first responders from those companies are part of that mutual aid. We assist each other when we all have events, and we do the same thing in return. If somebody else needs help, we send employees as well. So, so following that incident, the following week, we did conduct a pretty thorough investigation. A lot of things came out of it, but the root cause of it was the failure of that RTU. When you look at all of the data, but there were other things, procedural things that we wanted to change. You go back a sec. So,
Sorry, I don't know how to go back.
okay, so there's a little map there of the city of Keene, shows our distribution system. So when we have an interruption or we lose, service, our procedure is that we are required to go in and to every customer's premise, access our meter, and shut it off. So to begin, we had to shut off 1,137 meters before we could even think about putting gas back into the system. So what we did do is split the city up into 9 zones. We're able to isolate those 9 zones through, gate valves that we have in the system already. And once we were able to get all of the zones isolated and the valves off, then we were able to bring the system back on in stages, zone by zone. You can flip it. Why don't we can come back to that. I just want to finish. So when we, I'm going the wrong way, sorry. So, this is just a graphic and information in regards to the zones, how many customers we're on. The key point here is once we had this designated, our first priority were Critical customers, downtown area, businesses, healthcare facilities, those are in zones 3 and 4. And on that first day of the event, we were able to reestablish to our critical customers in zone 3 and 4 by just a little after midnight, get their gas back on that same day. But there were a lot of other things that followed. So when we talk about the emergency command structure, we can go back. So this emergency command structure is organized, to deal with all of the logistics of dealing with a major event. And the structure that we use is really a best practice. A lot of the utilities that were affected during Hurricane Katrina, which I think everybody recalls, this was a best practice of how do we manage logistically a major event that occurs on a utility system. So we've adopted this. It is a best practice, and it worked quite well for us in over the 2.5 to 3 days of restoring service here in Keene. I would say that both the Keene Fire and Police Departments, they were very helpful in accommodating to help us gain entrance to customers' residents, reaching out. They have lock boxes in some of the locations that they were able to get us in, so we could turn that meter off and expedite the process of restoring service. So, as far as the event itself, and as far as the summary, where are we here?
I think that's your first slide, Rich.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's okay. Is that the one?
Root cause, yeah. Right, so as I said, most probable, the root cause, the probable root cause was the failure of the RT unit. That occurred because they were drilling a hole in the top of a cabinet. They had protected the components inside that cabinet, but some of the metal shavings were able to penetrate or get to the circuit board, which caused the event to trigger and shut down the plant. So the crew was there. They were drilling the cabinet, making the hole in the cabinet. They had to step away, to gather up some other tasks and get started on some other tasks. And when that occurred, the alarms went off, and then here we are at approximately 11 o'clock in the morning. The gas system was shut down. So if we go to the next. So this is just a pictorial view of the cabinet and the RTU, and where they were drilling the hole. They were upgrading the components of the plant, the control components and the monitoring components. And as a result of doing that upgrade, we had a mishap, and we apologize for that. And it wasn't intentional, but we worked really hard to get the city of Keene back online just as fast as we could. So, I guess are there any
questions?
Any questions?
Councilor Giacomo?
Thank you, Your Honor. So I'm an engineer by trade. I lead a lot of PFMEA investigations. I don't see any, I see a lot of root causes. You guys drilled right down to where this problem was. What's the corrective action? I mean, changing it to a different system, do we just not drill holes anymore? And I guess that's where I'm coming from with this. I don't see any reason. Was there new training put in place? Why is this not going to happen again?
So we've updated our operating procedures in the plant. We are training additional plant operators or employees. And we've put in some other mechanical components into the mixing rooms and control room part of the plant, so that if the event occurs again, or to avoid this from ever happening again, there are more options available to the plant operators to keep the plant running on a manual basis. And we do man that plant 24/7. We have, a SCADA. Are you familiar with SCADA? So we do have a SCADA system. We have a control room in Londonderry. They monitor all of the, plant operating pressures, boiler temperatures, the mixture ratios, things of that nature. There is some technology there that is dated. It's reached its end of life cycle, and we are in the process of replacing that technology.
Counselor Jones?
Thank you, Your Honor. Your bailiwick is actually natural gas, right? Do you have other locations where you do the propane mix like you do here? Or are we the only one?
This is a very unique system. It's almost a one-of-a-kind in the country for a propane air system for the components and the equipment that's being used to supply the customers of Keene. We have peak shaving plants in our Nashua, Manchester, Concord, and Tilton area of operations, where during winter, during peak load conditions, we supplement and mix propane air with natural gas and also with liquefied natural gas.
May I follow up, Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
So is the RTU used because we're doing that mixture, or is that something that's also used with natural gas processes?
That RTU is a common control component that is...
For this type of system or for all systems?
For all systems.
Thank you.
It's a programmable unit.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Counselor Greenwald?
Drawn back to the drilling of the hole, 2 questions. Was this work done by a licensed electrician?
Yes. Our employees within what we call the Production, Instrumentation, and Regulation Group, we have part of that 9-person team that handles all the plants throughout the state. We have 3 licensed, fully licensed electricians.
So there was a licensed guy drilling the hole?
Yep,
Okay.
yep.
Is it required that a permit be taken for this sort of work? In the outer world, there is, but I didn't know if the gas company was exempt from that.
No.
Other questions? Counselor Williams?
Yes, this was lost, pressure was lost because you lost an RTU. I was wondering, is there any redundancy in place? I mean, an RTU, systems like that will go down, and one would hope they would fail over to another system. So was anything like that available?
Well, we were in the process of adding wiring components to install a PLC, which is a programmable logic computer, to replace the control technology that operates the production function output of the plant.
Counselor Madison?
Thank you, Your Honor. Are you guys taking any measures to identify any other single points of failure within the system that could also represent a similar vulnerability to the RTU?
I don't know that I could specifically answer that, other than say that the technology in the plant, we are updating it to current day technology. Some of the control components of that plant go back to the 1970s and 60s, and we're replacing that and updating it so that we have better control. We have our gas control center in Londonderry will have more ability to control and monitor, that plant. Aside from you know, we have to keep a person there, 24/7 to monitor that plant, because we want to make sure if something out of the ordinary occurs, there's someone there.
And with your permission, what we'd like to do is, we've got some plans for that particular plant, and that's what we'd like to talk about next, because, that plant is old. It's the only one left in the US. There was one on an island off California, which is now redundant, and we'd like to transition from propane air to a different molecule, and we'd like to talk to you about that. So if there are no further questions, and
Well, but before we get to that, I'm sure there are some more questions. Councilor Giacomo?
Thank you, Your Honor. One more follow-up as I'm reading through the root cause page here. It said the operator had moved on to other tasks, and when the alarm started, was he drilling this hole while the box was live, or did he not clean up his shavings before restarting this?
They had put a blanket over all the components internally, and had removed the blanket once they had completed drilling the hole. I'm not sure how the metal chip got there, whether it was while they were drilling it or when he removed the blanket.
Anybody else? I have a question. So after the, accident certainly happened, and after the incident, which nobody expected or wanted to happen, happened, the emergency response, in your estimation, did the emergency response go as well as possible? Were there any things that maybe could have gone better, and you've put actions or procedures in place to make that better should this happen in the future?
It's a tedious, 3.5 days is, that's a long time, but it's a tedious process. As far as making sure that all the customers are off, bringing the distribution system on a zone at a time. Once we've got gas back into the distribution system under normal operation conditions, then we have to go back to those meters that we shut off. We have to turn them back on and light the appliances back up. So it's a tedious process, and we have a good incident command structure to manage events like this. But it's all about safety, obviously, and we want to make sure that we comply and safely restore the system to normal operation. So we felt that the way we were able to mobilize, the resources that we were able to bring in, to bear and help us complete this task, we thought it was pretty successful.
in terms of the event itself, the way we mobilized mutual aid, that was very quick. The resources we got were mobilized very quickly. From my perspective, when I was dealing with your offices, there was a comment on the first day that we could have got some communication out earlier, so we've taken that on board. And then also, we did have an issue with locksmiths because we need to get access, but Chief Howard was just superb. We met with him every single day, and him and his officers were able to facilitate access to a few remaining properties that were causing us a little bit of a problem. So locksmiths we learned from, and also around our communication. Every time I've been an incident commander, there's always been an opportunity to improve communication with the communities that are impacted. And just one thing I would like to say is I've been doing this for a while, and I've been involved in situations that have impacted many communities over the years, both in overseas and here in the US. And the people of Keene, our customers in Keene, and also the people who use the restaurants and all the facilities were absolutely superb, very patient, very supportive, and for that I'd certainly like to thank the community.
I'm glad you said that, Neil, because having been through that experience, it was difficult, because I don't think the communication with your customers was as good as it maybe could have been, and that caused that caused a lot of issues. You know, we had a lot of calls, people that didn't really know what was going on, didn't have an understanding of the next steps and all that. And
Yeah.
I just hope, I'm glad to hear that you think that was a good learning experience, because we can't have that again.
No.
When these outages happen, they require a tremendous amount of city resources. I mean, we had firefighters, police going and knocking on all these doors, doing a lot of work, and I can tell you our emergency services are stretched pretty thin. I mean, especially during COVID and with all of the increased number of calls that we've been seeing recently. So to add this on top of that workload is a major stress for the municipality, but you obviously know that.
Yeah, and to be in a position where we're actually spending almost $800,000 on upgrades, and during the process of upgrading some of this aging technology, we have an event like this is disappointing. But I was very pleased with the way the business reacted, and also, like I say, the community's response, very supportive.
The other lesson that I hope can be learned, I think it was tremendously valuable to have the city's GIS system available to help with some of the emergency response, and I don't know if there's been any kind of follow-up to try and integrate those two, you know, your maps and understanding of your system, and integrate that into our GIS. But I think that would be a really valuable thing for us to do if it hasn't been done already.
We can certainly follow up with that.
Yeah.
And we have an Esri GIS system that I think that is compatible with what the city uses.
It's actually just been upgraded, so now is the right time.
City manager?
Yeah, thank you. That's great to hear. I know one of the challenges we had was concerns around confidentiality, but I can assure you we deal with confidential things every day. And it would have been helpful for our planning, for our teams as well, so that we could help you better. So that's great. That sounds like something that we can do. We can integrate with our system.
Councilor Chadbourne?
I was one of those 1,137 customers, and I was out for a couple of days. And I had tenants calling me, asking me what was going on, and I didn't know. So I was a little disappointed with the immediacy of relaying the problem and letting people know. Communication. Councilor Giacomo asked two questions, and one of them was answered, but the other wasn't. And the second question he asked was it live? And I'm imagining, since he's an engineer, that there must be some significance to that, which was like, was it live when they were doing the drilling, or is that what you were asking? And yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's all low voltage, control component. There wasn't a high voltage cabinet.
They were actually on site. They joined us down in the office. We went through our plan with them.
Yeah.
Personally, they were satisfied with the response, and
we did send them a report meeting their requirements. Pardon me? Right.
Well, this is the bit
Well,
where
we
we're
want to talk
hoping-
about the
yeah,
future.
Yeah, we do.
There's no value in going back in the past.
Yeah.
It's always about the future, right?
And I think you appreciate as well, Councillor Giacomo, this was a very kind of skinny down version, and as my colleague said, there's a lot of lessons learned around pre-job briefs, around policies and procedures, the way we operate, how we would protect a situation like that going forward. So what we tried to do here was, in the interest of time, kind of boil the ocean a little bit. And I apologise if we didn't actually answer all of the questions in the presentation, but please feel free to reach out to us with any other questions you might have. Okay, with that, I'd like to invite Bill and Morgan.
The fun team.
The fun team. That's what we call ourselves.
Thank you. Appreciate the opportunity to talk about our what we're calling Green Keene. It's been called Green Keene internally for a while. I'd like to share what we're contemplating for the upgrades to ensure that what we do for an investment is both future-proof to align with our goals of decarbonization, net zero by 2050, and the city's goal of renewable energy by 2050 as well. So on the screen here, you can see that we put in a couple links in here for some studies, Columbia University being one of them, that in the same way the electric grid can move renewable electrons, gas infrastructure can move renewable molecules, whether they be renewable natural gas or hydrogen, and we'll talk a little bit about those two molecules later in the presentation. And also the Brattle Group talks about how that can build on organizing and building a clean transition that's reliable, resilient, and economic for customers, as well as the Downstream Gas Initiative, which is consistently saying that the natural gas infrastructure will play a critical role in enabling a clean energy transition that is just, economic, safe, and reliable. So again, 3 great studies if you have some time to read on there. And with that, I'm going to pass it over to Morgan, who's going to talk about work to date and next steps.
Awesome, thanks, Bill. So like Bill said, we've started this Green Keene initiative, and I've had the pleasure of being able to work as a part of that team. We've been doing a lot of work and planning and really trying to figure out an ideal path forward for Keene. So what we're intending to do in our objective is really to transition Keene's aging propane air facility and distribution network to what we've identified as being safer, more reliable, clean, and economic in general, the fuel and the system for our customers. So like Bill mentioned, Liberty has recently made an announcement to a commitment for net zero. And some of the commitments that we've made are transition to a low carbon economy. We want to focus on energy reliability and also customer experience and affordability, and also what it looks like to transition things to RNG or hydrogen in the future for our gas networks. And we understand that the city has a commitment as well to 100% renewables. So we see an alignment there and really an opportunity to potentially future-proof Keene's distribution network. So recent work has determined that there are improvements required in the near term. And what we talk about internally sometimes is thinking big, but making sure that we're growing safely. We want to be thinking about our big sustainability commitments, but we also want to be meeting these goals and growing at a pace that's very much a pace that everyone can keep up with. And we want to make sure that we continue to demonstrate best practices and also implement known processes. So in some of the work that we've been doing, we have identified that really one of the best paths forward for Keene would be to start the energy transition with an LNG CNG supply for Keene and investigate RNG while future-proofing for hydrogen. So we think that we can do that by focusing on clean energy, economical energy, and also try to maintain our reputation for being safe, reliable, and resilient as a company as a whole. There are some priorities that we want to focus on. I won't touch all of them in detail, but we want to focus on being sustainable and economic. We want to reduce emissions for Liberty, but not just for Liberty, but for the city of Keene and our customers. Focus on this future-proof distribution system, and also remain forward-thinking and have an optimized investment strategy. So we've done a decent amount of work to date. We've worked with the U.S. Department of Energy. We've been trying to identify federal resources that will help support clean hydrogen. We're staying engaged in several councils and hydrogen working groups and things like that. The DOE actually launched their Hydrogen Shot initiative, which we did respond to. The Hydrogen Shot, just for people who aren't aware, is essentially seeking to reduce the cost of clean hydrogen over the next decade, and we're hoping to help be a part of that. So we've also engaged a third-party expert to evaluate and look at Keene in what we've called the art of the possible. So really we've looked at creating a vision and a blueprint for a pathway to 2030 for Keene and what that might look like while considering your energy goals. We've looked at innovative ideas, technology exploration, and what the future of gas looks like here, but also throughout the United States and Canada and throughout the world. We've also engaged the same expert in a gas supply analysis for Keene. So we looked at a number of different sources. We've looked at CNG, RNG, LNG, hydrogen, and as well as blends of these fuels and what that might look like. And it has come recommended to us that starting with a CNG LNG solution would probably be an ideal start, and it would start to support that transition to a safer, cleaner, reliable fuel source. So there are a number of next steps. We believe that we could develop a working partnership with the city of Keene and support your energy goals as well as our energy goals as we sort of work towards 2050. We are going to continue to leverage federal energy resources and continue to operate using best practices, leverage our expertise as a leading energy company, and really focus on that pathway to 2050. And I guess I'll just end it off by saying that we really do want to begin transitioning Liberty's Keene system to be what we're considering 2050 ready. And we feel like Keene could be a great place for us to work and meet these goals for Liberty.
Thanks, Morgan. And if everybody in the room doesn't know, the Monadnock Marketplace has already been transitioned to compressed natural gas receiving deliveries. That was not affected by the outage. It's a separate distribution and production skid that does have redundancies in there and has been working exceptionally well. So as we move forward, I want to talk a little bit about the two molecules I mentioned, the renewable molecules, renewable natural gas and hydrogen. One of the great things about both of these is they're not necessarily dependent on pipelines. They can be produced locally. Wherever there is waste in wires, you can produce hydrogen or renewable natural gas. So you're not supplemented, you can get supplemented by truck delivery. So what you're seeing here is a pictorial of a landfill application. So as waste is organically breaking down in the landfill, methane, carbon dioxide, other off gases are created. The gases are cleaned and treated. So the renewable natural gas goes through an upgrader until it's basically pipeline ready and is interchangeable with a conventional natural gas molecule. So when you inject RNG into a pipeline, there are no equipment modifications. Your equipment that you're running and operating doesn't know the difference. It's basically chemically indifferent than conventional methane on there. And the second form of RNG is predominantly food waste, dairy waste, and wastewater treatment facilities. So those are three big production areas where 40% of America's waste is comprised of organic materials. All organic materials break down. If they're left to be untreated, they off-gas vent fugitive methane emissions into the atmosphere. So by collecting the surface level methane, upgrading it to pipeline quality, injecting it, you can actually get to carbon negative on a lot of these gases. Many of the dairy farms and food waste production facilities of RNG have been scored as up to negative 400 carbon intensity score when you account for the fugitive methane emissions on there. And then hydrogen. And this is really like the Swiss Army knife of molecules. It could be used for electrical generation, thermal load, processing load, mobility, and fuel cell vehicles. And this shows the creation of hydrolytic hydrogen, electrolytic hydrogen, sorry, on there, where you have clean electricity that is run through an electrolyzer, splitting water, going back to high school chemistry, H2O. You split the oxygen and the hydrogen, take the hydrogen, and now you can blend it in many instances into the natural gas stream on there. Right now, studies are showing that you can blend approximately a 20% by volume load of hydrogen into natural gas network without affecting end-use equipment. If you were to go higher than that or go to 100% hydrogen, now you would affect end-use equipment, so we'd have to go back into homes and businesses and put in either new hydrogen equipment or upgrade existing equipment that's there. Do we have one more? That's just the renewable energy system end uses for hydrogen, and as I mentioned, building heat and power is what we'd be concentrating on here. But again, if we were to have a 100% hydrogen network here, you could use it for microgrids, fuel cells, transportation, really a Swiss Army knife molecule. That's all the fun team has. It's just ready for questions.
All right, are there any questions? Councilor Williams?
I think it's I want to hear more. This sounds interesting. We need to go green. I'm concerned about, starting off with compressed natural gas, which is still a fossil fuel,
Mhm.
and wondering if there's, enough supply of renewable natural gas to come along and replace it. So, like, what do you see as the transition process? And, are there supplies available to make that happen? And how long is it going to take?
Sure. So there are supplies available. Locally, I can point you to, we have a project that's, we have in front of the New Hampshire Public Utilities Commission for a landfill in Bethlehem to truck renewable natural gas created at the landfill down to our system in Tilton. On there, the annual volumes that one landfill would produce is more than 2 times the annual usage of all of our Keene Plus system. So just that one landfill could do it. You'd have to balance it because of the peakiness, right? I mean, a landfill or an anaerobic digester produces the same amount of RNG every single day. And so usually you get oversupply in the summer and undersupply in the winter. So balancing is quite critical on that. There are massive landfills. A large utility in Pennsylvania is just got approval for a landfill that's 5 BCF, and that's billion cubic feet of gas. That one landfill would be about a third of all of our customers in New Hampshire. All 100,000 customers are about 16 to 17 BCF. So that one landfill could supply about a third of our gas supply needs. And then again, the hydrogen is really wherever there's wires, right? So you could have solar, wind, conventional electricity that runs through there. You could also utilize natural gas as a feedstock. Probably not the best idea here because there's not a natural gas supply naturally here by a pipeline. We would use the natural gas as a feedstock, capture the carbon that's coming out of the methane, either sequester it or utilize it for other purposes, and you'd be left with just the hydrogen molecule.
Further questions? Councilor Giacomo?
Thank you, Your Honor. Well, I know we've looked into natural gas in the past, and we know that piped-in natural gas, huge economic benefit compared to this current blend system that we use right now, and that's been known. There was a lot of pushback because of pipelines and things like that. So obviously, being able to locally create natural gas is a huge incentive for us to look into this. But we also that means there has to be infrastructure built to produce all that. So I'm curious, first of all, do we know the ROIs on these kind of things? Do we know, for instance, with the age of our landfill that we have in town, how much more methane is still being produced there? That would be the one part of it. And then for the hydrogen, yes, the Swiss Army knife, it can be used everywhere, but law of conservation of energy says you're not going to create electricity with a molecule that you had to use electricity to make unless nuclear fusion has been created. So anyways, so my question is, do we know anything about our landfill, and is it true that it does degrade over time, the production of methane, and would that factor into our cost analysis?
It does.
Thank you.
And the last time that we looked at Keene landfill being capped, the volumes that we could pull out of that landfill and upgrade to pipeline quality would not warrant an investment in an upgrader for that facility on there. And then as far as the hydrogen, what we're seeing is a lot of movement in the electrolyzers that are getting off of non-platinum metal groups on there, which would bring the price down, which would allow you to load follow on curtailed energy prices. So in one of the projects that we're looking at in upstate New York, there's about a 30% curtailment of hydro and wind. And so that if you could load follow that, creating the hydrogen, and then storage is really the next key breakthrough in the storage of the hydrogen on there. But it just kind of as a 40,000-foot level, the Department of Energy's Earthshot, as they're calling it, the goal is to bring 1 kilogram of hydrogen down to $1 in 1 decade, the 1 by 1 by 1. And so $1 a kilogram would translate to about 770 in MMBTU, which, if successful, is much less than you're currently paying now for natural gas in the last winter and what we're looking at going into next winter as well. But definitely lower than the pricing already existing in Keene. Yeah.
So you've got various steps here, where we are, potentially renewable natural gas, and then hydrogen. Between current state and renewable natural gas, what are the limiting factors that are keeping us from getting there? Is it regulatory? Is it licensing? Is it?
It's neither right now. It's getting the infrastructure set up so the skid that is on Production Avenue could actually receive renewable natural gas today. There's nothing else that has to be done. So as we progress from the marketplace forward and get more customers, it's really just RFPing renewable natural gas sources, seeing what's available locally versus what can be trucked in, and then it becomes an economic justification on that going forward.
Okay.
And what we want to do is to make sure, again, so if we're going to do, and these aren't numbers set in stone, but if there's a $6 to $12 million investment being made in a new supply facility to increase reliability, resiliency, bring down costs from the propane air right now, we want to make sure in 6 years that that's not being scrapped and starting from scratch. So RNG molecule, everything that we do today, it's just a different molecule that's being delivered or produced locally. As hydrogen, I mentioned storage being a very expensive item when it comes to hydrogen. The CNG or LNG storage that we put in play could be the emergency break glass where you would have a steam methane reformer that if hydrogen production went down, deliveries went down, you could use the gas stored there, converting it to hydrogen instantaneously, and that would be our backup fuel supply.
Okay. Further questions? All right, I want to thank all of the Liberty Utilities folks. I appreciate the information. I know the council does as well, so thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Looking forward to coming back.
We'll leave you to the rest of your exciting agenda.
Absolutely.
I look forward to following up and maybe meeting with you all or even the Energy Committee to talk more detail about this, so we'll definitely be in touch and appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah, thank you. I think that makes sense. We have a very active and engaged Sustain Energy and Climate Committee, and they're definitely the folks that'll take a lot of interest in this, and they'll push you to deliver as well, just fair warning.
We want to have as Morgan's slide said, a really meaningful working partnership with the city to progress on this. And it's going to be a dialogue, not a one-way conversation. So we're looking forward to that very much.
Thank you all. Have a great night.
Thank you.
Thanks. Great questions, by the way. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, so back to our regular agenda. Comes to confirmations, number 1.
This evening, we are confirming the mayor's nomination of a Kenneth Coast. He will become an alternate to the planning board with a term to expire December 31, 2024.
And I'm looking to Councilor Powers for motion. Councilor Bosley for a second, please.
Thank you, Your Honor. Move to confirm the nomination.
Second.
And we have a motion by Councilor Powers, seconded by Councilor Bosley. Any discussion? Seeing none, are you ready for a vote? Will the clerk please call the roll?
Counselor Lake.
Yes.
And Counselor Johnson.
Yes.
Counselor Giacomo.
Yes.
Counselor Filio.
Yes.
Counselor Williams.
Yes.
Counselor Jones.
Yes.
Counselor Madison.
Yes.
Counselor Roberts.
Yes.
Counselor Ormerod.
Yes.
Counselor Chadbourne.
Yes.
Counselor Workman.
Yes.
Counselor Greenwald.
Yes.
Counselor Bosley.
Yes.
Counselor Powers.
Yes.
And it is unanimous. Can we get Councilor Ormerod back on the screens here?
Can you see me?
Can't see you now, Raleigh. We're trying to get you back up here. In the meantime, Raleigh, just feel free to speak up. Which brings us to communications, number 1.
We have a communication from Chuck Redfern. He's requesting some identifying signage for our trail system.
And this will be referred to the Municipal Services, Facilities, and Infrastructure Committee, number 2.
Something to do.
Our annual request from Alan Stroshine on behalf of the Elm City Rotary Club, looking for use of city property for the Clarence DeMar Marathon.
And this will be referred to the Planning, Licenses, and Development Committee, but this will be placed on more time to allow the protocol meetings to take place. Number 3.
And a resignation from a Delene White. She has been serving as a member of the Partner City Committee since 2019 and has now moved out of state.
Councilor Powers for a motion, Councilor Bosley for a second, please.
Thank you, Your Honor. Move to accept the resignation with regret and appreciation for her service.
Second.
And we have a motion from Councilor Powers, seconded by Councilor Bosley. Any discussion? Seeing none, are you ready for a vote? Will the clerk please call the roll?
Counselor Lake.
Yes.
Counselor Johnson.
Yes.
Counsel Giacomo.
Yes.
Counsel Filio.
Yes.
Counsel Williams.
Yes.
Counsel Jones.
Yes.
Counsel Madison.
Yes.
Counsel Roberts.
Yes.
Counsel Ormerod.
Yes.
Counsel Chadbourne.
Yes.
Counsel Workman.
Yes.
Counsel Greenwald.
Yes.
And Counsel Bosley.
Yes.
Counsel Powers.
Yes.
It is unanimous, which brings us to council committee reports, number 1.
We have an information report from the Finance Organization and Personnel Committee. They are reporting out the request from Keene Pride for assistance, financial assistance for their block party. Keene Pride withdrew their request.
And this will be filed into the record as informational, number 2.
Finance Organization and Personnel Committee report relative to public TV programming services. On a roll call vote of 4-0, the Finance Organization and Personnel Committee recommends the council authorize the manager to negotiate and execute an agreement with Falls Area Community Television for the operation of public programming services on the local public community access television channels provided by Spectrum.
And I'm looking at Council Powers for motion. Council Chadbourne for a second, please.
Thank you, Your Honor. Move to carry out the intent of the committee report.
I second that.
And we have motion from Council Powers, seconded by Council Chadbourne. Council Powers.
Thank you, Your Honor. As we all know, we have been without a public access production element of our I keep going back to CCTV, I'm sorry. It's dating my age here. At any rate, been a lot of work done by the city staff to come up with a program, and we've been lucky enough to be able to partner, once the council approves this, with an organization out of Bellows Falls. And they served 7 communities since 1998, so they got a pretty good track record of what they could do. And interesting enough, it's a fairly wide area that they serve. For those of you who know the land over there, it goes all the way over to Grafton, so it's a fairly good distance between Bellows Falls and there, and it's widely used and very much appreciated, and customers really like it. So it seems to be the right way to go. So FOP committee voted unanimously to recommend that the manager be authorized to do this negotiation, and once that's done, we get a program working for the benefit of the city of Keene and perhaps of 1 or 2 of our communities adjacent to us. So please vote yes.
Any discussion? Council Jones.
Thank you, Your Honor. A little bit about something that's been irking me for a long time. Going back many years ago, when I chaired the Telecommunications Committee, and then it morphed and became the Cable Television Committee. Back then, we had 7 ascertainment hearings and 2 public hearings before we had our PEG access channel. And the one thing that people kept asking for at these hearings were, what's going to happen with the franchise fees? Are they going to subsidize the taxpayer? And the people at that time were told by the committee, not by the council, were told, no, that is not our intention. It's specifically for the purpose of the franchise fees is specifically to aid anything to do with the cable users. And now, and twice we've had votes for that I brought forward that we not subsidize the taxpayer, which with franchise fees. I lost both times, so I'm not afraid to lose again. But I would like to meet you halfway. What I'd like to do is offer an amendment which helps those franchise fee people to at least address it when they want to, and that would be that all allocations and expenditures of franchise fee money be agendized and sent through the FOP committee so that people would have a chance to speak to it every time we spend their money.
City Manager?
And I'm saying, I know it's very legal what we're doing.
Yeah.
You don't have to tell me that.
Yeah, so the franchise fees dollars are used for PEG, so it's public, which is what we're talking about tonight, education, and government. So the equipment that we're using tonight to broadcast on cable is paid for using those franchise fees, as well as the AV technician, Nick, that we have running the programming. That's the government piece. So those franchise fees dollars are being used for that. They can also be used for the educational piece. And then when you're done with that, there's the public piece, which is not a lot of money left, because I think it's just about $200,000 in total for all. And what we are talking about tonight is now bringing back the public piece and allocating a portion of the franchise fees for that public piece. It will be a contract. The proposal is for a 3-year contract with this group. It would be for the remaining dollars that are available. The rest, like I said, are already being allocated for the governmental and educational piece of PEG. And so it would be difficult to bring back every time the group was using money out of the franchise fees, because we'd be basically just paying them a contract fee every month.
So, Counselor Jones, you're proposing an amendment?
Well, it wasn't seconded, so.
I know, but I just want to make clear first.
Yeah, I was, but-
The amendment is all expenditures from the
All-
franchise, of the
All appropriations
franchise
and
fee?
expenditures
Will go
agendized through the FOP committee.
will go before the FOP committee for approval. That's the proposed amendment?
Yes, sir.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion to amend from Counselor Jones, seconded by Counselor Workman. Any discussion? Counselor Williams?
I would just like to say that I think some of the franchise fees should benefit the taxpayer. These are wires that go through our right-of-way. We see them, they're ugly. I think they should pay taxes. I think some of that money should come back to the city. There's many other wires that don't pay any fees that probably should. I'm specifically talking about the many private fiber optic networks that are up there, kind of being ugly and being wires hanging around, and we're not getting money from them at all. So I think some of those franchise fees really should come to the city.
All right, thank you. Any further discussion? I'll let Counselor Jones address his amendment.
Well, I wanted to just, what the city manager said is exactly right. Now the franchise fees are subsidizing what the whole public is getting. Correct? Everyone is going to have access. At one time, it was only the cable subscribers that had access to that PEG access channel. And that's the way it was set up. That's the way it was supposed to be. Now the public has all access to that, and the subscribers are helping to pay for that.
City manager?
So I'm going to try and answer that, but I'm going to step back just a little bit. The franchise fee that we receive is in essence a tax for use of the city's right of way. And that's why there's no restriction on the use of those funds. It could be rolled right into your general fund, all of those dollars, and used for whatever purpose you wanted to use it for. Keene hasn't done that. Keene has used the franchise fees dollars for broadcasting programs over the cable channel. And they've been in these 3 different buckets: public, educational, and government. We have been now using the educational and government piece, but not the public. So this is that last piece. Is it true that what we're broadcasting on the cable channel is also being broadcast on our YouTube channel? Yes. And to be quite honest, it's a good thing, because the cable channel has not been great. Some of the equipment has not really been great in terms of sound and quality, and we've been working with the provider to try to upgrade that. But everything that we produce is going out through the cable channel, and that's a requirement. If we're going to use the dollars for that purpose, then we do need to at least broadcast it through the cable channel. So we are doing that. There are no restrictions on use of the dollars, and this just brings back the public piece.
Thank you. Counselor Roberts?
Yes, Your Honor, 2 things for the first part, the cable companies and everybody uses the telephone poles now pay taxes. because I was part of that committee to ensure, and we argued because for one time, one half of the poll paid taxes, the other half didn't pay taxes. So everything on the poll now pays taxes on that. That's just a fair way to do it. The second thing is, when we argue back and forth about this, I'm gonna make a contract, I want a deal, I want to know my numbers. I don't want to have to wait every single month for the FOP to come and say something, then have to wait to go to the city council. We need to do it one way, we got to do it efficiently, and if you want a grid provider to do it, they need to know what their what the rules are, and they have to have a steady flow of income.
All right, thank you. Further discussion? Councillor Blake.
Thank you, Your Honor. Just a clarifying question. The franchise fee that we get from the provider is just passed on from the subscribers, right? So it's not actually a tax on the providers, it's a tax on our residents, right? That I know it's indirect through the provider, but
City Manager.
They decided to do that. They decided to collect that tax from their users. That was a decision that they made as a provider.
It's how they bill it to their users.
Understood.
It's like when like a sales tax or something else is put on the bottom of a bill at a restaurant or something like that.
sure. Regardless, we are taxing them and they are passing on to the customer. So I believe Councilor Jones's point is that we are funding something that is given to all of our citizens based off of a very small subset of individuals. But I do agree with Councilor Roberts' point that I don't think that we should probably be having the committee okay it every month. I think there might be a better solution to what Councilor Jones is trying to get at, which I would love to collaborate on, because I think there probably is a better way to fund some of this. I would like to see more of that funding go to the actual public piece now that we are going to be going back to that. So I do hope we put a little bit more towards that. Thank you.
All right, and just to be clear, this is the amendments to add to the committee recommendation that all expenditures of the franchise fee be agendized and approved by the FOP committee. Any other questions? Councilor Chadbourne.
Yeah, I just wanted to, I don't know if it's appropriate, but I know that the IT director has had her hand up, so I'm wondering if she's wanting to speak to it and if that's possible, just acknowledging.
Sure, thank you for that. IT director, do you want to speak to this?
Thank you. Rebecca Landry, IT Director and Assistant City Manager. For the question at hand is regarding the use of the franchise fee money to do anything other than broadcast over the channels. And I just want to make it clear, for clarification purposes, that has been going on for a very long time. That is not new. So the former operator, which was Cheshire TV, was streaming over the web. So this is not necessarily a new practice. Currently, we're streaming more, obviously, because there have been developments, which is great. The other thing is that when we talk about taxation, the Spectrum does pay a poll tax, and the utility pole owners do pay a tax. We don't have any idea who the other attachers are, or we'd be happy to send them a bill as well.
Thank you very much. Further questions? Councilor Jones.
Thank you, Your Honor. I'm just continuing with this because this is something I started 20 years ago, and we gave our word back then, and I still feel yes, the subsidizers, that the franchise fees should not be subsidizing the taxpayer. Now, what was said before was right. The Telecommunications Act of '96 does say it can be passed on to the subscriber, and that's what they do. They pass it on to the subscriber. That that thing is like an old Manhattan phone book, if any of you know what a Manhattan phone book is, if you ever read the Telecommunications Act. But that's what it is, and yes, it does allow, but that doesn't mean you have to use it. Back when we first started a franchise fee, Manchester was using theirs to subsidize their taxpayers. And we said we were not gonna do it at the time. So, and I know where I am with this. I've just gotta stick by my guns because I've done it. I've failed before, and I still say, well, we're gonna get another vote on this because this is only an amendment, so I'll shut up.
All right, further comments on the amendment? Seeing none, are you ready for a vote on the amendment? Will the clerk please call the roll?
No.
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 I used to say yes.
No.
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 And the amendment fails, which brings us back to the original committee report and recommendation. Any discussion? Councilor Jones.
Thank you, Your Honor. I'm gonna stick by my guns. I don't think the subscribers should be subsidizing the taxpayers, so I'll be voting no on this, although I do like the program.
Man of conviction. Any further discussion? Seeing none, are you ready for a vote? Will the clerk please call the roll?
Yes.
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 No.
Madison.
Yes.
Council Roberts.
Yes.
Council Omerod.
Yes.
Council Chadbourne.
Yes.
Council Workman.
Yes.
Council Greenwald.
Yes.
Council Bosley.
Yes.
Council Powers.
Yes.
And it's, let's see, we have everybody here? No, we don't, so passes.
14. Yes, it does pass.
That brings us to number 6.
6? Nope, we're at 3. You must have taken your few out of your packet.
Let's see.
We're on item D3.
Well, D3,
You haven't tabled it.
we're tabling.
Yeah, you haven't
D3,
announced that.
4, and 5, we're going to table until later in the agenda. My apologies. Which brings us then to number 6.
Finance Organization and Personnel Committee report relative to fire staffing. On a roll call vote, 4-0, the Finance Organization and Personnel Committee recommends to accept the report, which includes a recommendation to hire 4 firefighters, 1 per shift. And this will be revisited once the department is notified of the outcome of the AFG grant submission. If awarded, the SAFER grant will temporarily assist with the funding of these positions. Other recommendations of the committee should be pursued immediately.
Thank you. I'm looking at Councilor Powers for a motion. Councilor Chadbourne for a second, please.
Thank you, Your Honor. Move to carry out the intent of the committee report.
And I second that.
We have a motion by Councilor Powers, seconded by Councilor Chadbourne. Councilor Powers.
Thank you, Your Honor. As you all know, there's been a lot of discussion on this particular topic, and there was some significant amounts of work done by a committee that the manager put together early spring, maybe late winter, to work through to a point where a report could be made to the city council, to FOP, through the budget process, et cetera. I think everybody's seen it. Everybody's had an opportunity to read through it, and I've heard a number of people comment on it. All those comments are very complimentary, that a fine piece of work done by a number of people. It gives some good information for the council to be able to use to make decisions. But part of it was that the recommendation is that no action be taken right away, that yes, there are things that need to be done, and we want to get some stuff done, but we need to really take advantage of what may happen with some federal funding. So some grant opportunities are in the works. I'm fairly confident that we're going to be lucky enough to be one of the awardees in the state, and hopefully it'll come sooner than the latest projection is, maybe in the fall, but hopefully it's going to be sooner than that. And with that action, then there will be, with the grant coming forward, then there'll be action that the city needs to take to authorize the manager to receive and then to carry out the intent. do the hiring, implement those changes into the system. Should that not happen, then the manager is recommending that we come back and discuss carrying out the wishes of the report, that we're able to put additional people on the rolls on a daily basis to be able to deal with what has to be done, which means an economic input for the city to make, all of which we'll discuss once again. So it's important that we get this done right now and lay out a plan of action. So we recommend that the council accept this report and follow through. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you for the members of the committee working on all that. That was a lot of information to go through and important stuff. Any discussion? Seeing none, are you ready for a vote? Will the clerk please call the roll?
Counselor Lake?
Yes.
Counselor Johnson?
Yes.
Counselor Giacomo?
Yes.
Counselor Filio?
Yes.
Counselor Williams?
Yes.
Counselor Jones?
Yes.
Counselor Madison?
Yes.
Counselor Roberts?
Yes.
Counselor Omerod?
Yes.
Counselor Chadbourne?
Yes.
Counselor Workman?
Yes.
Counselor Greenlaw?
Yes.
Counselor Bosley?
Yes.
And Counselor Powers?
Yes.
It's unanimous. So there wasn't a quorum for last week's PLD meeting, but there are a couple of items that I'm going to pull forward as they are time sensitive. The first is Pathways for Keene, request to use city property for the 4 and the 4th road race, and I'd ask Councilor Bosley to give us a motion and Councilor Giacomo for a second, please.
Thank you, Your Honor. I move to recommend that the City Council grant permission to Pathways for Keene to sponsor a running race on July 4th, 2022, subject to the signing of a revocable license, an indemnification agreement, and the submittal of a certificate of liability insurance in the amount of $1 million, listing the City of Keene as an additional insured. In addition, the Police Department shall identify Railroad Street immediately adjacent to the Railroad Square as a no parking zone from the hours of 6 a.m. to 11 a.m. This license is conditional upon the petitioners providing an adequate number of volunteer race marshals to ensure runner safety along the course, and subject to any recommendations of city staff. Petitioner agrees to absorb the cost of any city services over and above any amount of city funding allocated in the FY23 community events budget. Said payment shall be made within 30 days of the date of invoicing.
Second?
We have a motion by Councilor Bosley, seconded by Councilor Giacomo. Councilor Bosley, do you want to talk about this at all?
Yes, thank you. So the 4 and the 4th is the Pathways for Keene has requested their annual license to conduct a foot race on July 4th. Staff reports that the protocol meetings have been held with the applicant, and we are in a position to issue the license. This year represents the 20th anniversary of the Pathways for Keene hosting this event in Keene. And the Pathways for Keene works in partnership with the City of Keene in maintaining and improving the trail system, working closely with our Recreation Department and Public Works. This event represents one of their major fundraising efforts, and I encourage the City Council to support issuance of the license to conduct this.
Councilor Jones, then Councilor Filio.
Your Honor, just in case you want it on the record, I am a member of the Board of Directors of Pathways for Keene.
All right, thank you.
And if I can promote this activity, this is a great summer activity, a great 4-mile race that happens on July 4th in the morning. And anybody that wants to volunteer, we need help with course marshals, or if anybody wants to help register, or just be there to direct people, or be there to call an ambulance. Sometimes we need people get problems with the heat or something like that. That's usually something that I do. We're willing to take any volunteers that want to come along, so please come along.
This is more of a point of order. Whereas PLD didn't have a quorum to speak about this, and where this is not an agendized item tonight, do we not need to suspend the rules of order to act on this?
Apparently not.
Well, generally, you can take the matter from the committee. If there were an objection to the mayor wanting to pull this matter out of the committee, then it would be, have a motion on it to whether or not to bring it from the committee to something for writing,
Historically, whenever a non-agendized item has come up, we've always voted to suspend, so I'm a little...
That is another approach to this.
I asked that same question, and if you're objecting, we can vote to suspend the rules.
I just think from when we set, kind of a criteria and protocol and whatever word you want to call it, the amount of time I've been on the council, we've always suspended always suspended the rules when a non-agendized item was brought up to us. No matter how minuscule it was, we've always done that if it didn't make it through committee. So I'm just thinking for the legal purposes, based on how we've historically always done this, and it's just routine, I get that. But I mean, when we've done fireworks, so this last second we have to do this, we suspend the rules and then we vote on it. And I get really concerned when we kind of go, which way are we going to go? So I would say to the council, we should suspend the rules so we keep the pattern steady.
Would you care to make a motion to that
I move
effect?
that we suspend to discuss.
Second.
All right, we have a motion from Councilor Filio, seconded by Councilor Jones. Any discussion on suspending the rules? Seeing none, are you ready for a vote? Will the clerk please call the roll?
Counselor Lake?
Yes.
Counselor Johnson?
Yes.
Counselor Giacomo?
Yes.
Counselor Filio?
Yes.
Counselor Williams?
Yes.
Counselor Jones?
Yes.
Counselor Madison?
Yes.
Counselor Roberts?
No.
Counselor Ormerod?
Yes.
Counselor Chadbourne?
Yes.
Counselor Workman?
Yes.
Counselor Greenwald?
Yes.
And Counselor Bosley?
Yes.
And Counselor Powers?
Yes.
And the rules are suspended. Thank you. Any further discussion on the request for the license? Seeing none, are you ready for a vote? Will the clerk please call the roll?
Counselor Lake?
Yes.
And Counselor Johnson?
Yes.
Counselor Giacomo?
Yes.
Counselor Filio?
Yes.
Counselor Williams?
Yes.
Counselor Jones?
Yes.
Counselor Madison?
Yes.
Counselor Roberts?
Yes.
Counselor Ormerod?
Yes.
Counselor Chadbourne?
Yes.
Counselor Workman?
Yes.
Counselor Greenwald?
Yes.
Counselor Bosley?
Yes.
Counselor Powers?
Yes.
And it's unanimous. To be consistent, we should probably suspend the rules for the next one as well, if someone wants to make a motion to that effect.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, we have a motion from Counselor Greenwald, seconded by Counselor Filio, to suspend the rules. Any discussion? Seeing none, are you ready for a vote? Will the clerk please call the roll?
Counselor Lake?
Yes.
And Counselor Johnson?
Yes.
Counselor Giacomo?
Yes.
Counselor Filio?
Yes.
Counselor Williams?
Yes.
Counselor Jones?
Yes.
Counselor Madison?
Yes.
Counselor Roberts?
Yes.
Counselor Ormerod?
Yes.
Counselor Chadbourne?
Yes.
Counselor Workman?
Yes.
Counselor Greenwald? Counselor Bosley?
Yes.
Counselor Powers?
Yes.
And it's unanimous. The rules are suspended, and this item has to deal with the Keene Swamp Bats and a request for fireworks, which is also time sensitive. And I'd ask for a motion from Counselor Bosley, a second by Counselor Giacomo, please.
Thank you, Your Honor. So you're going to get your fireworks motion here tonight. I move to recommend that the Keene Swamp Bats be granted permission for the discharge of display fireworks on the following dates: Sunday, July 3rd, 2022, and Saturday, July 16th, 2022, on Alumni Field at no later than 10 p.m., subject to the following conditions: the signing of a revocable license and indemnification agreement, that the Keene Swamp Bats provide a certificate of liability insurance with the City of Keene listed as an additional insured in the amount of $1 million, that the fireworks vendor also provide a certificate of liability insurance with the City of Keene listed as an additional insured at the amount of $1 million, submittal of a signed letter of permission from SAU 29 for the use of their property, and obtainment of a Class B fireworks permit for each display date. In addition, the petitioner agrees to comply with any recommendations of city staff. The permission is conditional upon the petitioner absorbing the charges for any city services provided for the July 16th display. The petitioner agrees to absorb the cost of any city services over and above any amount of city funding allocated in the FY23 Community Events Budget for the July 3rd display. Said payments shall be made within 30 days of the date of invoicing.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion for Counselor Bosley, seconded by Counselor Giacomo. Counselor Bosley.
Thank you. So staff is recommending that the City Council approve the licenses for the Keene Swamp Bat to discharge fireworks on the 2 dates in July. Protocol meetings have been held with the applicant, and staff is comfortable moving forward with the issuance of the license for each display. The fire and police departments are prepared to provide support as they have in the past. And as background, the Swamp Bats have hosted fireworks displays on Alumni Field dating back to the early 2000s. They took over sponsorship of the Independence Eve display in 2006, and I would encourage the council to support the issuance of this license.
All right, any discussion? Counselor Jones?
Thank you, Your Honor. Being that this didn't go to committee and was able to have public input, I'm just thinking about what Counselor Williams had said at a past meeting. Sometimes there are people with dogs that are sensitive that would like to know about it, people that have children with autism who could be sensitive to this. And I'm not looking to amend, I'm just asking for staff, if they could just put out a notice when this is about to happen as an administrative thing, even though not rely on the swamp bats to do it, just say, fire, just like we do when there's a road condition, we put out a notice, and not rely on the petitioner to do it, but the city can do it just as a public notice.
I think the city will, it sounds like they'll consider it, but it's not like our event, so we want to be careful about setting a precedent of doing stuff like that for people. Because then anybody who's holding any event can say, well, why didn't I get mine broadcast across the community, you know? But we'll think about a way, maybe we can put up a non-specific PSA or something like that, or maybe I can do it. I don't know.
Or maybe we can ask the petitioner.
Or we can ask the petitioner to do that.
That's right.
But it's a good idea. We'll figure out something. Councilor Williams.
Just say, thanks, Phil. I think that is a good idea. I did outline my concerns with fireworks a few weeks ago, last time fireworks came up. In this case, you know, I do think we are a little too enthusiastic with fireworks. I kind of have a problem with, you know, maybe a good thing would be to not give an organization more than one fireworks event per year, and this one is asking for 2. So my preference would be, you know, just to have one event. And I would also suggest that, you know, maybe the Keene Swamp Bats can look into some alternatives to fireworks. You know, drone shows are really cool, and I'm sure people at Keene would love to see them, you know, as a, you know, something else besides fireworks. We see fireworks all the time. I haven't really seen a great drone light show around here, and I would challenge the Keene Swamp Bats to perhaps come up with something like that.
All right. Any further discussion? Seeing none, are you ready for a vote? Will the clerk please call the roll?
Counselor Lake?
Yes.
Counselor Johnson?
Yes.
Counselor Giacomo?
Yes.
Counselor Filio?
Yes.
Counselor Williams?
No.
Counselor Jones?
Yes.
Counselor Madison?
Yes.
Counselor Roberts?
Yes.
Counselor Ormerod?
Yes.
Counselor Chadbourne?
Yes.
Counselor Workman?
Yes.
Counselor Greenwald?
Yes.
Counselor Bosley?
Yes.
Counselor Powers?
Yes.
And the motion carries. City Manager.
Just a couple of announcements. The New England Aerobatic Club will be visiting the Keene Airport this Saturday for their first planned practice day. I know many of you were interested in that. I don't have times, but it's usually mid-morning until afternoon. So be on the lookout for that. And then our budget schedule is getting close to wrapping up. We have our next budget meeting at FOP, May 26th, which is at its regular time at 6 p.m., where the FOP committee will make their recommendation to the budget, and that will be brought forward to the public hearing, which will be Thursday, June 2nd at 7 p.m., and then the vote on the budget occurs June 16th. And that's it for me.
All right, thank you. Moves us to Board and Commission reports, number 1.
We have a report representing the position of the Joint Planning Board, Planning Licenses and Development Committee. The Planning Board did determine that Ordinance O-2204 relating to amendments to the City of Keene Land Development Code was consistent with the city's comprehensive master plan, and the Planning Licenses and Development Committee is requesting that the mayor set the public hearing.
And a public hearing will be set for June 16th at 7 p.m. There's one item that's requesting more time. More time will be granted, which brings us to ordinances for first reading, number 1.
We have a memorandum from the Assistant City Manager, Human Resources Director, along with Ordinance O-2205, an ordinance relating to class allocations and salary schedules.
And this will be referred to the Finance, Organization, and Personnel Committee, number 2.
And a cover memo from the City Attorney, along with Ordinance O-2022-07, an ordinance relating to licenses and permits, specifically parklets.
And this will be referred to the Planning Licenses and Development Committee, which brings us to resolutions number 1.
Memorandum from the Finance Director Treasurer Mary Howe, along with several resolutions, and they include Resolution R 2022-10, a resolution relating to the appropriation of funds for municipal building roofs. Resolution R 2022-11, a resolution relating to the appropriation of funds for road rehabilitation. Resolution R 2022-12, a resolution relating to the appropriation of funds for the salt shed replacement. Resolution R 2022-14, a resolution relating to the appropriation of funds for the Wells Street parking structure maintenance. And Resolution R 2022-15, a resolution relating to the appropriation of funds for the 3MG water tank repair.
And these will be referred to the Finance Organization and Personnel Committee. Number 2.
Finance Organization and Personnel Committee report relative to 2 resolutions. R 22-16, a resolution relating to appropriation of funds for the Patricia T. Russell Park Capital Project, and Resolution R 2022-19, relating to the appropriation of funds for the Carpenter Street Flood Management Project. And the committee is recommending the adoption of both those resolutions.
All right, now I'm looking to Councilor Powers for a motion to adopt the first resolution. Councilor Chadbourne for a second, please.
Thank you, Your Honor. I move for adoption of Resolution 2022-16.
Second.
We have a motion from Councilor Powers, seconded by Councilor Chadbourne. Councilor Powers.
Thank you, Your Honor. This first one has to do with the funding for the Patricia T. Russell Park. We have had a number of presentations from Parks and Recreation, Public Works, City Engineer, and we're closing in on this project getting going. But unfortunately, as we have seen in the past, and most recently, some of our costs have exceeded our ability to pay. In this particular project, as far as the park goes, a lot of work has been done by Parks and Rec and Public Works to try to trim the cost of this project. And if you had an opportunity to see the presentation last week, we did a nice job of bringing this project into a little bit better economic position without sacrificing a very good project. And allowing some allotments for, if money becomes available in the future, certain things that had to be peeled out of the construction in the near soon can be accomplished at a later date without sacrificing the project. So they're able to cut back somewhere in the neighborhood of $400,000 to meet the cost that we've gotten for our contracts appropriation. So what you're doing in the resolution is you are appropriating some funds to be able to meet the needs, and it's going to go through the system and it'll be added to the bonding process to be able to pay for that. Did I get that right? Not bad so far. So it seems very complicated, but when you look at the whole big picture, it makes sense that we move forward and get this done, and that we work it into our economic system that's going together for the finishing up this year and going into next year. And it was unanimously approved by FOP. Hope you do the same.
All right. Any comments or questions? So a reminder, this one will take a 2/3 majority. Are you ready for a vote? Will the clerk please call the roll?
Counselor Lake?
Yes.
Counselor Johnson?
Yes.
Counselor Giacomo?
Yes.
Counselor Filio?
Yes.
Counselor Williams?
Yes.
Counselor Jones?
Yes.
Counselor Madison?
Yes.
Counselor Roberts?
Yes.
Counselor Ormerod?
Yes.
Counselor Chadbourne?
Yes.
Counselor Workman?
Yes.
Counselor Greenwald?
Yes.
Counselor Bosley?
Yes.
And Counselor Powers?
Yes.
It is unanimous, which brings us to the second resolution. I'd ask for a motion from Councilor Powers with a second by Councilor Chadbourne, please.
Thank you, Your Honor. I move for the adoption of Resolution 2022-19.
Second.
We have a motion from Councilor Powers, seconded by Councilor Chadbourne. Councilor Powers.
Thank you, Your Honor. This is a companion project along with Carpenter Street and the Patricia Russell Park. One of the concerns as this whole project began to come together is the flood situation over there, things that have been happening over the years. And really, to build a park and not address that didn't make much sense. So packaged the whole program together and came up with a very good plan to meet the flood management issues and prepare for the future. But once again, our economic impact has been more than was in the budget. On this one, you don't want to trim it out. You want to make sure that it's done right, and they are continuing to move forward. It's a very good project for the flood management. So again, we're going to move some money around, get it into the funding stream with the borrowing, and meet all our requirements. So the FOP unanimously approved it. We hope the city council will do the same.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, are you ready for a vote? Will the clerk please call the roll?
Counselor Lake?
Yes.
Counselor Johnson?
Yes.
Counselor Giacomo?
Yes.
Counselor Filio?
Yes.
Counselor Williams?
Yes.
Counselor Jones?
Yes.
Counselor Madison?
Yes.
Counselor Roberts?
Yes.
Counselor Omorad?
Yes.
Counselor Chadbourne?
Yes.
Counselor Workman?
Yes.
Counselor Greenwald?
Yes.
Counselor Bosley?
Yes.
Counselor Powers?
Yes.
It is unanimous. And I'll remove from the table item D3. So item D3.
Finance Organization and Personnel Committee report relative to both the Patricia T. Russell Park and the Carpenter Street Flood Management projects. It's a request to reallocate funds. Contains two recommendations. I believe the mayor is looking for us to divide this question.
Without objection, I'll divide the question.
Okay, so the first recommendation is on a roll call vote, 4-0. The Finance Organization and Personnel Committee recommends the council reallocate $310,000 from the Police Department Equipment Project and move the funds to the Patricia Russell Park Improvement Project.
All right, so I'm looking for Councilor Powers for a motion on recommendation number 1, with a second by Councilor Chadbourne, please.
Thank you, Your Honor. Move to carry out the intent of the committee report.
Second.
We have a motion from Councilor Powers, seconded by Councilor Chadbourne. Councilor Powers?
Thank you, Your Honor. This is another step in our project at Carpenter Fields, Carpenter Street. And some of the economics of the increases are being addressed through the fact that we have some money available in the current budget that was intended to be used for the camera systems for the police department. And so $310,000 will be moved over from that particular project to the Patricia Russell Park Improvements Project of 90316, unanimously approved by FOP, and hope the council will do the same.
All right, thank you. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, are you ready for a vote? Will the clerk please call the roll?
Counselor Lake?
Yes.
And Counselor Johnson?
Yes.
Counselor Giacomo?
Yes.
Counselor Filio?
Yes.
Counselor Williams?
Yes.
Counselor Jones?
Yes.
Counselor Madison?
Yes.
Counselor Roberts?
Yes.
Counselor Omorad?
Yes.
Counselor Chadbourne?
Yes.
Counselor Workman?
Yes.
Counselor Greenwald?
Yes.
Counselor Bosley?
Yes.
And Counselor Powers?
Yes.
And it's unanimous. So now I'm looking to Councilor Powers for a motion on the Carpenter Street Flood Management Project.
And that recommendation is that the Finance Organization and Personnel Committee recommends the City Council reallocate $100,000 from the Roxbury Street Flood Management Project and move the funds to the Carpenter Street Flood Management Project.
Councilor Powers with Councilor Chadbourne, second, please.
Thank you, Your Honor. Move to carry out the intent of the committee report.
Second.
We have a motion from Councilor Powers, seconded by Councilor Chadbourne. Councilor Powers.
Thank you, Your Honor, once again to meet our needs for the financial impact of this particular project. There were funds available in the Roxbury Street Flood Management Project, and $100,000 be moved over to the Carpenter Street Flood Management Project of 90298-22 to accomplish our mission. Unanimously approved by the FOP, and hope the City Council will do the same.
Thank you. Any discussion? Seeing none, are you ready for a vote? Will the clerk please call the roll?
Counselor Lake?
Yes.
Counselor Johnson?
Yes.
Counselor Giacomo?
Yes.
Counselor Filio?
Yes.
Counselor Williams?
Yes.
Counselor Jones?
Yes.
Counselor Madison?
Yes.
And Counselor Roberts?
Yes.
Counselor Omorad?
Yes.
Counselor Chadbourne? Counselor Workman?
Yes.
Counselor Greenwald?
Yes.
Counselor Bosley?
Yes.
Counselor Powers?
Yes.
And it is unanimous. So I'll take from the table item D4, and we have item D4.
Finance Organization and Personnel Committee report relative to a consultant selection for construction engineering services for the Patricia T. Russell Park and the Carpenter Street Flood Management Project. On a roll call vote, 4-0, the Finance Organization and Personnel Committee recommends the manager be authorized to do all things necessary to negotiate and execute a professional services contract with SLR International Corporation for an amount not to exceed $200,000 for construction engineering services required for the Patricia T. Russell Park / Carpenter Street Flood Management Project.
Counselor Powers for a motion, Counselor Chadbourne for a second, please.
Thank you, Your Honor. Move to carry out the intent of the committee report.
Second.
We have a motion by Counselor Powers, seconded by Counselor Chadbourne. Counselor Powers.
Thank you, Your Honor. We're closing in at the end of this particular topic tonight, and this would be approve the hiring of a professional firm to be able to oversee and do some of the design work. They're well qualified to do the work, recommended by Public Works Department, and the Finance Committee voted unanimously to recommend that the manager be authorized to do all things necessary to negotiate and execute that contract for an amount not to exceed $200,000. We hope the council will do the same. Thank you.
Thank you. Any discussion? Seeing none, are you ready for a vote? Will the clerk please call the roll?
Counselor Lake?
Yes.
Counselor Johnson?
Yes.
Counselor Giacomo?
Yes.
Counselor Filio?
Yes.
Counselor Williams?
Yes.
Counselor Jones?
Yes.
Counselor Madison?
Yes.
Counselor Roberts?
Yes.
Counselor Ormerod?
Yes.
Counselor Chadbourne?
Yes.
Counselor Workman?
Yes.
Counselor Greenwald?
Yes.
Counselor Bosley?
Yes.
Counselor Powers?
Yes.
It's unanimous. Number 3.
Finance Organization and Personnel Committee report relative to appropriation of funds. The committee is recommending the adoption of Resolution R 2022-17, and it reads, a resolution relating to the appropriation of funds for the George Street Bridge Replacement Project.
And we'll file the report. I'm looking at Counselor Powers for another motion. Counselor Chadbourne for a second, please.
Thank you, Your Honor. Move for the passage of Resolution 2022-17.
Second.
And we have a motion from Counselor Powers, seconded by Counselor Chadbourne. Counselor Powers.
Thank you, Your Honor. So the George Street project is a replacement of a bridge that's on the red list and is coming up to fruition in the next few years. And as part of the state program, we pay a certain portion and the state will pay another portion of it. But we must prove that we have the money in the bank and the program's moving forward. The costs have gone up. These adjustments in the budget will make sure that we have the right amount of money available and ready to go. There's been some pre-work done and some satisfaction with the way that this is being approached by Public Works, so it would be opportune for us to move forward with this resolution to appropriate the money from the capital reserve to the expense side to be able to do that. So FOP recommended unanimously that this be passed, and we hope the council will do the same.
Thank you. Any discussion? Seeing none, are you ready for a vote? Will the clerk please call the roll?
Counselor Lake?
Yes.
Counselor Johnson?
Yes.
Counselor Giacomo?
Yes.
Counselor Filio?
Yes.
Counselor Williams?
Yes.
Counselor Jones?
Yes.
Counselor Madison?
Yes.
Counselor Roberts?
Yes.
Counselor Ormerod?
Yes.
Counselor Chadbourne?
Yes.
Counselor Workman?
Yes.
Counselor Greenwald?
Yes.
Counselor Bosley?
Yes.
Counselor Powers?
Yes.
And that is unanimous. So now we'll take the tabled item D5 that has to do with this George Street replacement.
Finance Organization and Personnel Committee report relative to a design consultant selection for the George Street Bridge. On a roll call vote, 4-0, the Finance Organization and Personnel Committee recommends the manager be authorized to do all things necessary to negotiate and execute a professional and technical services contract with McFarland Johnson for engineering services required for the replacement of the George Street Bridge over Beaver Brook for an amount not to exceed $245,000, subject to NHDOT approval, with funding to come from Project Cost Center 90328-22.
Counselor Powers for motion. Counselor Chadbourne for a second, please.
Thank you, Your Honor. Move to carry out the intent of the committee report.
Second.
We have a motion from Counselor Powers, seconded by Counselor Chadbourne. Counselor Powers.
Thank you, Your Honor. Now that the funding's been made available by the resolution, now the expense side is up for your vote. Recommend that the manager be authorized to do what's necessary to negotiate and execute the professional and technical services contract with McFarland Johnson. McFarland Johnson's done a lot of work for us of late, very competent and done well, and we hope that they'll be able to continue their relationship with us. Again, this is the project that will be in the near future in conjunction with the state of New Hampshire for the funding. So the FOP voted unanimously to approve this. I'd like the City Council to do the same. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, are you ready for a vote? Will the clerk please call the roll?
Counselor Lake?
Yes.
Counselor Johnson?
Yes.
Counselor Giacomo?
Yes.
Counselor Filio?
Yes.
Counselor Williams?
Yes.
Counselor Jones?
Yes.
Counselor Madison?
Yes.
Counselor Roberts?
Yes.
Counselor Ormerod?
Yes.
Counselor Chadbourne?
Yes.
Counselor Workman?
Yes.
Counselor Greenwald?
Yes.
Counselor Bosley?
Yes.
Counselor Powers?
Yes.
That is 2 unanimous, and we have 2 more resolutions on the agenda. Number 2.
And this is a memorandum from the Finance Director, Treasurer, relative to Resolution R 2218, a resolution relating to the establishment of a Parks and Facilities Infrastructure Capital Reserve.
And this will be referred to the Finance Organization and Personnel Committee. Number 3.
And this is this is a memorandum, again, from the Finance Director, Treasurer, along with the Fire Chief, relating to Resolution R 2022-21, a resolution relating to the appropriation of funds from the general fund unassigned fund balance.
And this will also be referred to the Finance Organization and Personnel Committee. That brings to an end our regular agenda. I want to thank everyone for your time and attention tonight. We stand adjourned.
Boom, boom.